I think one of the main challenges for people is that you have to live together and cooperate, and otherwise we're gone. And so I'm really interested in how people manage to live together, work together, and get along. And I found that the foundations for that are laid in childhood, and that it's really fascinating to see why it goes wrong, but also why it doesn't go wrong with most people, and people manage to sort of replace their aggressive tendencies by more pro-social skills and more pro-social behaviors. So we have seen that these children make these hostile attributions, and that leads them to become aggressive. So when we made these games and we had them interact with each other, we could easily evoke aggressive behavior between them because they made hostile attributions, because they thought that the others angered them in purpose and that they wanted to take revenge. We study how aggressive behaviors like bullying develop and what we can do to prevent them from developing or to cure them. And we do so in different ways because aggressive behavior problems can develop for very different reasons in different children. So we first try to detect why the problems emerged. Are there family problems, or are there problems in a child's temperament, or is it more something in the school context, in the classroom? And then after we found out what may be the cause of these behavior problems, we look for ways to prevent those problems or treat those problems, and we test whether those solutions actually work. So how shall we go about that? I think the scientific challenge for me personally is to see whether all these things that are associated with problems in children, which of these things are actually the causes of the problems and which are just the consequences. And we use these interventions to test whether if we change something, it really also diminishes the problems the children have, so that we know that it's actually a causal process. So scientifically, doing these interventions with kids is a nice way to test causality. That may sound a bit abstract, but it's really helpful because at the same time you can use these interventions to really, improve children's lives in the long run. These effects of bullying research, that maybe we could, evaluate the most promising programs. It used to be that there was sort of this divide between people who study normal development and people who study children with really severe problems, and it was really stupid because we can learn a lot from each other. If you want to understand why some children get into problems, like many of the children I study, you have to understand why most children don't develop these problems. So you have this sort of continuum between normal development and problematic development, and you really need to work together to understand what makes development go right and what makes development go wrong. And in dynamics of youth we put that together, so that's really nice. And also you need to understand not just the child and his genes and hormones and his family, but also the broader environment, like for example the culture a child comes from or grows up in, or socioeconomic problems that children may have that may put really the stress on families that make it more logical for parents to raise their children inadequately or for children to develop behavior problems. No, I guess one tip is just patience, because sometimes people come with ideas that are really far removed from the way that you tend to think about things, and you have to just take the time to let it sink in. A good example is game theory, where you have these theorists who just spend all their time simulating games where people can win or lose in different contexts on computers. And I felt first that it was very far removed from what I did. But then later on I thought that, hey, bullying in the classroom, you can approach that very well with game theory by looking at what have the different children in the classroom to gain from intervening with bullying or helping the bully or helping the victim. And then suddenly it turned out to be an approach that was really helpful in understanding bullying, even though at first it seemed very far removed from what I was doing. So you need some patience and some sort of an empty mind to start with an open eye, look at something that first you may think, hey, what does this have to do with what I'm doing? But those are the very things that then may tempt you to find a new direction where you may actually discover new things.